Hey there, I'm Jacqueline Stats. My business is A Conscious Evolution. I'm a holistic health coach with a specific focus on training the mind, which is, taking a good look at how we do things, the reasons why we do things, how those rationalities got lodged in there to cause us to act or react in certain ways, and fleshing them out and installing new programming. So meditation is a really key component in everything that I do for myself and for my clients. I'd love to invite you to join me on a balancing meditation today. And we're going to talk about the nature of impermanence and meditate on that, which is a very key concept in Eastern philosophies. You all know that I am a big conspiracy theorist. I have been for at least 20 years. And chances are, if you've been following me for some time, or if you're watching this now, you are starting to become one too. And, that can be a very unsettling place to be when you start seeing behind the veil and realizing that, things aren't quite what we thought they were. So, this is a technique that I use in my meditations to balance myself, to cope with things, and to get on with my life. And to, if you know me, things impact me very minimally. I'm coming at you today from my favorite place on earth. I'm at my little home on the beach, and it's magical. So I'd like to share some of this peace and wellness with you. I'd like to invite you to close your eyes and just gently check in with where you are. You should be in a nice, comfortable seat. If you can get your feet planted on the floor, if you're unable to sit cross-legged, that's wonderful. And just check in with your body right now. See if there's anything that needs your attention. And maybe politely ask, now that we have inventory, we know where our aches and pains exist, let's just ask them to sit to the side for the next 10 minutes. I tend to find with myself, if I know where things are, why they're there, then I can sort of put them away. We're going to practice a little pranayama to start with. Breathwork is very popular right now because when it's impossible for us to control our minds, we can control our breath. You may notice when you're heated or if you are feeling tense, your breath becomes very sharp and shallow. And that's because it is tied to your central nervous system. So when we can't quite master our mind, we can always master our breath as a way to regulate. So what we're going to do is a really simple technique. It's called box breathing, and it's just what it sounds like. A box is four sides, all equal, and we're going to breathe in 4 equal steps of inhaling in for 4 counts. We're going to hold our breath for 4 counts. We're going to exhale out for 4. When we exhale, it's more of a release. We're just going to allow it to come out of us rather than forcing it out. And then we're going to hold our breath at the bottom for 4 counts. And that can be really uncomfortable at first, but I assure you, you can go 4 seconds without passing out. And by the end of these 5 sequences of box breathing, you'll be fine with holding your breath for that time. So let's get started. Let's just inhale in through the nose for 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath at the top for 2, 3, 4. Exhale out, 2, 3, 4. And stay empty at the bottom for 2, 3, 4. Inhale in, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. Exhale out for 2, 3, 4, and stay empty. And inhale Inhale in, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Exhale out. And hold empty. 2 more rounds to go. Inhale in, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. Exhale out, 2, 3, 4. Hold empty. And inhale in. Hold. Exhale out. And hold. And there you go. That's something you can use anytime, anywhere. Let's check in on your body as you return to normal, comfortable breath in and out through your nose. Do you feel calmer? Does your mind feel more at ease? You can do this in the car, you can do this in the kitchen, you can do this in the office. Before you get up to do public speaking, you can do this at any time to help regulate your nervous system. Now as you return to normal breathing, let's talk about impermanence. What is it? As the name suggests, it is that nothing is actually permanent, no matter how much we believe it to be. And that is, in essence, the very essence of nature, is that everything is always constantly and dynamically changing. It's fall right now in some places. Here in Florida, fall means the whole tree falls down because it's hurricane season. Other places, you're losing leaves. Southern hemisphere, it's spring. This is a time of rebirth. Up here in the northern hemisphere, we're going to fall into winter. Then we're going into spring. It's constantly changing. Our bodies are constantly changing. I don't have the same body I had when I was a baby. This hair is probably only a couple years old. My skin is not even that old. I've been through so many different shells already, and yet I have remained constant. So that has died and fallen away around me while I remain the same. And we can think about trees that lose their leaves in the fall. Maybe a tree loses its life, but then it returns to the soil. It regenerates the whole ecosystem around it. So everything in nature, which human beings are a part of, is constantly changing. In Buddhism, it is said that attachment is the root of all suffering. And we can think of attachments to people or to things, and we can see how that is very true. But attachment goes far beyond that. Attachment can also mean to outcomes, to things that we perceive are going to happen or that we want to happen. Or if we're particularly negative, we plan for negative outcomes. Attachments could be to ways of doing things. It could be to emotions. The more that we try and keep our world very static while it is constantly changing, the more we do cause ourselves distress because it is an impossible feat. Every wave in the ocean is completely different than the one that happened before it, and yet it is the same body of water. It has to come back to itself change and come back up. When we try and keep things very still, we do ourselves a disservice. If you can think of any transitional point in your life, maybe from, adolescence into adulthood, you know, we could have been very scared. We could have wanted to stay a teenager, and how terrible would that have been? We would do ourselves a disservice. We cannot fight. As a mother, you can't stop your child from growing. It's going to happen. So you have to, learn to ride with it, let them go, let them grow and evolve. And it's that way with everything in this physical world. It has to change. What we can do is put all of our best efforts into these changes being positive. We can ensure that we're doing everything within our power to bring positive changes into our own personal world and let the dynamic of that effect ripple out into the world around us. So it's very helpful to see change not as good or bad, but as just neutral, as in something that needs to happen. I love the quote that a bird doesn't need to trust the branch that it sits on because it trusts its wings. So if the branch falls out, the bird is still absolutely fine. So I invite you to think about a time in your life when you were afraid of making a change, or that a big change had come to you suddenly and unexpectedly. And I'm willing to bet it worked out in your best interest. See if you can feel that fear, the apprehension, the hesitation ahead of that change. For me, several months ago, my landlord informed me, I do rent here, down here. It's not a buyer's market at the moment. My landlord informed me that she was going to be selling the home that I was living in. And that took me back quite a bit. If you know me, you know I love where I live. No, I'm not telling you where it is. We like it very quiet here. But I meditated on impermanence. I took a few moments. I did some deep breathing. And I believe it was 2 days later, a fantastic couple who owned a bigger place that actually is east-facing with water views, offered me to take their place. They wanted me to stay here in this complex. And everything just fell beautifully into place. Now I have an office designated for my work, and in every window I can see the ocean. So what became a very unsettled moment in my life actually worked out to my benefit. And I believe that is absolutely because I was able to remain calm. I didn't panic and make any rash moves. I maintained a great relationship with both my previous landlord and my current one. And everything just beautifully fell into place. Can you think about a time in your life where you reacted quickly to a struggle, and perhaps that made the struggle even worse? And perhaps it made it a more long, drawn-out process than perhaps just taking a hard hit right up front and coping with it and moving on. What is one thing in your life that is plaguing your mind at this moment? What is one change that's happening that you're struggling against? As you bring that up, I'd like to give you a harsh reality, is that you don't see every possibility. You are completely incapable of seeing every possibility. So perhaps you could ride with this flow just a little bit and see where it takes you, rather than fighting to swim upstream, fighting to keep things remaining the same. Have you ever gotten out of a relationship, whether it's romantic or family or anything, where you fought so hard to keep it and to stay in it, and when you finally broke free, you felt like 1,000 pounds fell off your back. You could finally breathe again. While we're in something, we can't see the beautiful possibilities that happen when the storm cloud passes. And that's the beautiful act of meditating on impermanence, is when we allow for change. Quite often that change that comes is in our best interest. So how can you loosen your grip right now on what is troubling you? How can this practice apply to your life right now? Now, with that same scenario in mind, I want you to think of the most outrageously positive outcome you can come up with, the greatest turn of events that you can possibly conceive, and bring that to mind for just a moment. Does it seem very far-fetched? Sure, but it's probably no more far-fetched than those worst-case scenarios you keep coming up with. So why don't we just put our efforts and our energy into something else for a moment? Get wild with it. Maybe it puts a giant smile on your face when you think of it. And now take a deep breath in and out. Let's check in again on how you feel. What's your current state of mind? How does your body feel? Has the tension in places relieved itself just a little bit? How can you align yourself for the best and most positive outcome? Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it.